In this video, I want to cover studying and test-taking skills with you guys. A lot of this stuff might seem like no-brainer information, but you'd still be surprised some of the online students that I have in my classes that are struggling in these areas. So I wanted to cover it with everyone, and I imagine every single one of you will learn something in this lecture that you didn't know before. So let's get into it. There are 17 tips here that we'll go over. The first one is to attend class, duh. And that sounds a little strange as an online learner attending class because we don't go face to face. But this means logging into your Blackboard, making sure you read all the announcements every single week, review all of your lessons in the entirety. You don't want to leave anything out in your lessons because you're not really sure if that will show up on the exams or not. So make sure that you review everything. If there are any assigned readings with your textbook or anything like that, make sure that you read everything. Work on your assignments and projects well in advance. Don't wait to the last minute to start things like that in case you have issues or questions that come up. And make sure that you complete everything that's required for your class. The best thing that I can tell you about already, we've gone over our syllabus and I've said it before, but I think it's important, so I'll say it again. Print your syllabus, look at all of the dates, put that in your calendar and in your planner, and make sure that you keep up with everything that is required for your class. This is your responsibility. You don't have the advantage of having your instructor face to face with you 2 or 3 times a week like these students that come to campus do. They give you the information through Blackboard and it's your job to keep up with it. They're not going to be in class reminding you about this constantly, so you have to be responsible for yourself. Know your instructor or your professor. Make sure that you know their expectations and what's required of you for each class, because every single professor and instructor does things differently. They have their own way of doing things. So make sure you study the syllabus, know it front and back, watch everything that they put on Blackboard, read everything that they put on Blackboard, and if you need to ask questions for clarification after you have checked those different avenues of information. If you still have questions, ask your instructor. Call them or email them. Ask them questions about their test, like if you're not really sure if it's multiple choice or essay or what format it is, and ask them what kind of grading scale or rubrics are used for the assignments that will be graded. Most of the time we'll post this stuff in Blackboard for you, so check there first, and if you can't find it anywhere in your Blackboard site, ask your instructor. But know what they expect because they're the one that will give you your grade. Schedule regular study periods. And I know this is very stressful for some of you because some of you might have a full-time job, some of you might have a family, some of you might have both, and you have obligations other than school. But the fact is, you are an online student. You are in this program, you are trying to earn a degree, and that is going to require work from you. So you're going to have to carve out time in your schedule to study and get your work done. You just have to do it, or else you're not going to pass and you're not going to get your degree. So if you set a specific time to do all of this work, you're more likely to do it. There have actually been studies on this. Someone actually surveyed and figured this out. So if you have a set time every day, I know for me, if I were taking an online class, it would be after I get my kids in bed at night, because that's really the only quiet time that I have during the day. Whatever works for you, find time to study on a regular basis. Be realistic. You guys know that these classes that we offer online are very condensed. They're accelerated. They last 7 weeks, whereas if someone were going to school on campus, they would be going for 14 weeks, and they'd have a lot more time during the whole semester to get their work done. It's very compacted for you guys, and it's very quick. You have 7 weeks to complete each class, and it's double work of what a typical student would be doing. So when you make up your schedule and you register for classes, be realistic about what you can actually accomplish. If you don't think that you can spend enough time to be successful in that class, don't waste your time and money registering for a bunch of classes that you're just setting yourself up to fail and you're going to have to retake them again. So make sure that you be realistic when you make up your schedule for your classes, and also be realistic in how much time you really want to spend studying. And make sure that you divide up that time evenly between all the classes that you have so that you're spending enough time on everything to do well in all of them. Make sure that you have a study area, and try to go in that study area every single time that you work on these classes. Your mind will automatically switch into study mode when you enter that area, and it'll be ready to get the work done. And let's think about what characterizes a good study area. Mine would be free of distractions, because I'm the kind of person that gets distracted very easily. So I would need my kids in bed. Hopefully my husband would be occupied with something else and he wouldn't be asking questions or interrupting me. I would need the TV off. I would need to turn my cell phone off. And I would need it free of distractions. I would also not put myself on the couch to study, because I think then I would probably end up falling asleep. Whatever works for you, use the same study area over and over and make sure that it is free of distractions and you're able to get the work done that you need to get done. Study short and study often. Don't overload your brain. If you try to cram at the last minute and you want to get 3 hours of work done and you got to cram a lot of stuff into those 3 hours, you're setting yourself up to fail. You do a lot better if you use frequent repetition to build your memory. If you wait too long in between study times, you might forget some of the material you've already learned. So study in short little bursts so you don't overload your brain. And study often. Don't just do it once a week. Make sure you do it periodically throughout the week. Start your study sessions on time. If you're on Facebook killing time and before you know it 20 minutes have passed and you're already into that set study time that you'd already set for that day, don't do that. Each delay that you have can add up, and then you're going to be frantically trying to get everything done last minute, and that's when mistakes are made. So don't waste time that you've scheduled for studying. Make sure that if you've got time scheduled to study, that you're actually studying during that time. Study when you're wide awake, and this might be difficult for some people. Like I said, my study time would have to be at the end of the day when I can focus. And I know I'm not a morning person, so I'm not going to wake up early to study before everyone else in my house wakes up. Whatever works for you. If it's during the daylight hours and you can find time to actually devote to studying, do it. If it's at night, do it. Find what works for you and make sure that you're wide awake. But there's a little tip here. 1 hour during the day would usually be worth 1.5 hours at night, just because our brain functions differently when the sun goes down. So that's something you want to keep in mind, but you just need to focus on what works for you, because everybody is different. Set goals for each subject you study. So if you have a certain amount of time or a certain amount of textbook pages to read, and that's your goal, that's great. If you have a certain amount of math problems that you want to get completed by the end of the night, that's great. Set a goal for yourself and you'll be more likely to accomplish it. Don't just say, I'm going to carve out 30 minutes to study. Make it specific. I want to do a certain amount of pages. I want to read a certain amount of pages. I want to do a certain amount of problems. I want to watch a certain amount of lectures. Set a goal for yourself that you can attain and that's specific. Start assignments as soon as they are given, and I cannot stress this enough. I teach critical thinking online for our general studies students, and it's a 14-week class for our online students even, because it's so much work we can't squeeze it into 7 weeks. And the big project for my critical thinking class is a very large research paper. And I start breaking down the research paper the very first week. I start giving instructions and start telling them to research, how to write it. And I do that on purpose, because if they wait to the last minute, it's not going to be good work. They can also, if they start it early, turn it into the ASU Writing Center and have it proofread before they turn it into me, so their grade's going to be that much better. So for a quality project, if you procrastinate and put it off to the last minute, you're not going to do as well as if you start it early and give it your best effort. If you're rushing through it, you'll be more likely to make errors, typos. It would not be your best work. And you can avoid stress and breakdowns by doing this as well. The longer you put it off, the more stressful it becomes. And I'm the kind of student, or I'm sorry, I'm the kind of instructor, and I know a lot of our professors are the same way, that if you have a technical glitch at the very last minute and you're unable to submit your work, it is considered late, because that's not our fault that you had a technical glitch and you shouldn't have waited to the last minute to try to submit it. So start it as soon as possible, and that way you don't have to worry about all this. Study your most difficult subjects first. A lot of times if we can just get the difficult stuff out of the way, we'll feel really good once that's complete, and we'll be able to relax and study the other subjects more efficiently. Review your notes regularly. I'm not really sure if any of you will be taking notes in a notebook. It really just depends on what kind of learner you are. But if you're not, you can go into Blackboard and review the readings or the lectures or whatever it is. You can watch these lectures more than once. You can take notes and read those more than once. So practice makes perfect. You're going to be more likely to remember all of the information when test time comes. So usually if you review your notes within 24 hours of watching the lecture or reading whatever, and you just review it for about 10 minutes, you'll be more likely to remember it. Also allow about 1 hour per class per week just to review everything you've already looked at in Blackboard. This will help you remember everything for your exam. Take regular breaks, and this is something I've had to do. If I start working more than about 45-50 minutes, my brain starts getting really distracted, and at that point I'm not really effectively studying anymore, so I need to get up and move. So run to the bathroom, grab a glass of water, look outside the window, do whatever you need to do, but get up and move every 45 or 50 minutes, and then come back to your studying, and you'll be ready to buckle down and get the rest of it done. Vary your work. I'm the kind of person, unless it's a really good book that I'm reading and that's for leisure, not really what I'm studying, I need to read a little and then maybe take notes, maybe do some writing or assignments, some physical work or something like that. This will help you focus better if you vary all of the different things that you're doing instead of just sitting down and reading a textbook for 3 hours straight. Problem solve. A lot of times for your classes, like if you are in a math class, statistics, chemistry, anything like that, most of the time that you study, you should be solving problems, because your tests are probably going to be problems. This is what you need to be good at doing. So instead of really getting in there and reading your textbook or reading your notes or something, you should be getting your pen and pencil out and solving problems for practice. Reward yourself. If you complete a goal, if you've set a certain time for yourself to study, and you say, I'm going to read 2 chapters in my textbook, and you do it, go grab yourself a candy bar or whatever you want to do to reward yourself. Watch a TV show, jump on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. Give yourself a little reward. That will help motivate you so you can complete all of your tasks. And then keep it up. Letting work pile up on you can be very overwhelming. Again, these classes are accelerated. In your 7-week class, if you get behind even half a week, you're going to be overwhelmed. And you're going to have to do a lot of things last minute. So you need to make sure that you keep it up. Don't get behind. And if you feel like you are getting a little bit behind, get in there immediately and get caught back up, because the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be to get caught up and do really good work to get a good grade. So if you can follow these skills right here, those would help you with studying. Now let's talk about test taking for a minute. Let's talk about concentration in general. Clear your mind, and that's something that's hard for me to do. But if I can get my thoughts on paper, I do to-do lists all the time. So if I'm thinking about something else and I need to focus on studying instead, what I need to do is just write a to-do list of what I need to do with my kids or whatever the next day. Have that on the paper so I can forget about it and clear my mind for studying. Focus. You can even tell yourself something like, I'm going to study for this test, and when I'm finished, I will daydream all I want, or watch TV, or do whatever I want to do. But just tell yourself to focus and get the job done, and then you can go and do whatever you want to do. Don't spend time worrying about personal things when you study. That's just time wasting. Try to clear your mind and focus. Switch subjects. If you have a small or short attention span and you get bored easily, try switching the subject that you're studying. Work on something else. Give you variety so that way you can focus again. Distractions are everywhere nowadays with social media. You've got Netflix, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, there's TV. There are so many distractions. And with me, family and friends can be a distraction too. Try to avoid those so you can concentrate on what you're doing. Get plenty of rest, and some of you might be laughing out loud at that. If you're working full-time and you have a family, plenty of rest, that it is kind of laughable. But try to make time for yourself and take care of your health. And part of that is getting plenty of rest. Try to exercise when you can and eat right. This will help you get better grades. Which goes along with this next one. Get a good start. Eat well and get plenty of rest before your test. Make sure that you do everything on time, and I would even say early, so that you're not rushed and you're not frantic when you get there for the exam. So in this case, we're talking about taking exams online. In my class, you're using ProctorU. So if you have an appointment with ProctorU to take your exam, try to get in there about 20 minutes before your appointment, get logged in, get everything ready, so that way you're not frantically rushing to get everything situated, and you're going to have to authenticate yourself as well with your ID, and you have to use your webcam and show it around your desk to make sure that you're not cheating in any way. Give yourself plenty of time to do that before your appointment for your exam actually starts. So that way you're not in a tizzy, you're not frazzled when the exam starts. You'll be able to focus on the exam because all that stuff you've already got done. Read the directions very carefully when you take an exam. They'll have probably even more instructions than what you would see if you were taking a paper and pencil test. You'll have more instructions in Blackboard. So make sure you read those carefully and that you understand them before you go in and start taking your exam. And then when you are taking your exam, read each question thoroughly and all of the potential answers if it's a multiple choice question. Make sure you read all of it carefully and thoroughly before you answer. And a lot of times in Blackboard, the way we as faculty have our exams set up, once you submit your answer to that question and go to the next one, you can't backtrack and go back and change it. So make sure that you understand the question and everything that it's asking thoroughly before you submit and go on to the next question. For your answers in your questions, first instincts are usually correct. So don't go back and change your answer unless you're positive that your answer is incorrect. If it's multiple choice answers, cross out the ones you know are wrong, without a doubt you know are wrong, and that will help you narrow down your options, and you'll have a better chance of guessing the right one from the remaining options. Never leave a question unanswered. In fact, Blackboard will not allow that, but you should at least guess because you might have a chance of getting it right. Make your answers easy to read. That's more like if you are writing an answer. But if you have to do an essay answer in Blackboard, you need to pay attention to your grammar, your spelling, your punctuation, capitalization, all of those basic writing skills that we've learned all throughout our education career. Make sure you pay attention to that when you're typing it into Blackboard, because if it's unclear and it's not easy to read, your professor will count off for that. If you don't know the answer, skip it and come back to it later if the exam allows for that. Again, in Blackboard, sometimes professors will let you see all the questions at once and you can go in between them. Some of them, like me, once you submit your answer, you can't come back to it. So make sure that you know which way is which on your exam. And if you are allowed to, if you don't know the answer, skip it and come back to it later. Don't get stressed out. Try to think positively. If you start freaking out because you think you're doing poorly, just take a few deep breaths, and then you can start your exam again. But try not to freak out. Test anxiety is a real thing. So just try to think positive and concentrate and focus and get the answers submitted. If you're allowed to check your answers before submitting it again, please do so. Again, in my situation, once you submit it, you can't go back and look at it, but some will let you have all the questions at once. So if you're allowed, check it before you go on to the next thing. And that's the end of this slideshow. So if you have any questions about study skills, test taking skills, just email me and let me know.